Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
Welcome to Ordinary to Badass, episode number 160. In today's episode, you're going to hear why Marlene Bjornsrud is so badass, and this one is going to be a little bit different than the normal episodes in that I'm just going to do a brain dump. I'm just going to share all the reasons why Marlene is so badass, and there are a lot of them. So I know you're going to love this episode. If you didn't catch the last one, I'm getting animated here. My hands are going everywhere. But if you didn't catch the last episode, Marlene has been such an advocate for women's sports. She's done both coaching and the administrative side for collegiate athletes and has also worked with the Olympics. She just has such an amazing career, and I just love how she's an advocate for women and has pivoted and done so many different things. So if you didn't catch the last episode, definitely go back and give it a listen. If you're short on time, check out this episode. And then once you hear how badass she is, I know you're going to want to go back and listen to the last episode. All right. Before we get to the episode, I would love it if you love the Ordinary to Badass podcast, share it with a friend. There's 3 little dots that are on the top of your podcast episode. And if you click it, you should be able to find share episode and then just copy the link and share it with some friends. That way other badasses like you and me can have this podcast at the tip of their hands. That's often the best way to get it to people. And as always, I appreciate your support for the podcast. It means the world to me. All right, let's get to the episode. Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or you're badass, I am so glad you're here. Today, I'm going to share so many reasons why Marlene Bjornsrud is so badass. Typically, I share 3 or 4 reasons. There was just so many good nuggets and so many reasons why she's such a badass that I'm just going to do a brain dump and share them all. I don't even know the number. We're just going to roll with it and go. So, the first reason why Marlene is so badass is because she was often the only woman in the room. And even though she was advocating for women's sports, a lot of the coaches, a lot of the other people in the room were men. So she had to figure it out on her own, figure out what to do, what to say, how to act. And she even shared an experience where she tried to fit in, tried to be like the men that she was in the room with. And they all went out drinking and smoking and stuff after. So she went out with them and tried to keep up with them and then had a hangover the next day. And she was like, you know what? This isn't me. I don't have to be them. I just have to show up as me. And she said, authenticity is your power. So it doesn't matter how different you are from everybody in the room. Be authentic to you. Man, it isn't always easy. It can be such a struggle, or you think like, oh, I'm going to be the odd one out. Everybody's going to look at me. Everybody's going to stare at me. Or this is just going to be so awkward. But sometimes what's even more awkward is trying to be somebody you're not. Trying to fit in. So it's okay to stand out. It's okay to be different. Just be you. And sometimes we have to find that out the hard way, right? We have to do something like have the hangover or do something that feels kind of crappy afterwards or feels kind of icky. And so those situations aren't all bad. They just remind us to come back to who we are. Circle back around, come back to who you are, and the next time you're in that situation, okay, do things that are more authentic to yourself. But I think it's so badass that Marlene has stood up for women in sports and has used her voice. And even when she made a mistake or did something like, you know, getting hungover after going out with the guys, then she pivoted. She adjusted for the next time. Like, okay, that didn't work for me. I'm not willing to do that again. That's not authentic to who I am. And she changed. And so I love that. Another thing that I loved was Marlene's idea or her concept of fit. Feeling, images, thoughts. And she said to look at your feelings, images, and thoughts and make sure that they are in alignment with each other. How many times do we make decisions and they're not in line with how we feel or how we think? Or like the images in our head of who we are. So that's kind of a quick reminder, one of those things that can just be done quickly without, you can just run through, okay, how do I feel about this? What do I think about this? What are the images I have about this? Is it aligned with who I am or not? And so like how we were just talking about how she was the only woman in the room, or you're in a unique situation, you're the only person of your type, like whether it be race, whether it be gender, there's so many different things. Like maybe you're in a room with a bunch of brainiacs and you don't feel like that's your area of expertise, or you don't feel like you're a brainiac. Okay, run through fit. Feeling, images, and thoughts, and make sure that they're in alignment with each other. If not, how can you tweak it a little bit to make sure that they are in alignment? And another thing that I thought was so badass about Marlene Bjornsrud is she was often attempting to do something that no one's ever done before. Man, that's intimidating. That's hard. But yet she did it. And she's done it gracefully. And I know that she said like sometimes she would speak up before she would think. And so she had to kind of learn to step back, to take a deep breath, to think about it, to run through the different things. But that's how we learn. We learn by taking action. If you want to do something that nobody's ever done before, you can't do it sitting on the sideline scared. You can't do it by not taking action. The whole thing is taking action, even if it's small, tiny action steps. And then it's consistently taking action, right? Being okay with making mistakes, being okay with failure. And I will tell you, personally, I hated failure in the past. I thought failure meant I was a failure. And my opinion has 100% changed on that. Not to say it's not still hard in the moment, but the more you fail and you get back up, it still will sting when you fail in the future, but you can at least realize, okay, this is preparing me for something bigger. This is preparing me for something better, right? It's not like a hit to the ego as much. It's like, okay, where can I go from here? What can I learn from this? So do something that nobody's ever done before. Or do things they have done, right? Sometimes you have to be a copycat for a while. And then when you have the chance or when you learn some stuff and you can see something that can be done different, then don't be afraid to do something that other people aren't doing. Another thing that was so badass about Marlene is she would keep her eyes open and not get stuck. She would try to look for opportunities or ways to do things differently. And when she did get stuck, again, she would keep her eyes open. She would keep looking instead of just giving up and being defeated. Marlene said, how can I become better every day? How can I become better this minute? That's part of keeping your eyes open, right? Instead of just being defeated, you're looking for different opportunities, different things that are available to you. If you're always looking at how sucky life is, you're looking at the negative side, how nothing is available to you, then I got news for you. Nothing will be available to you. And man, some of this I say from experience because I have a natural tendency to be negative and I really have to fight hard to combat that. So this is something I'm going to start asking myself more. How can I become better in this minute? How can I become better every day? Or ask yourself, what is the opportunity here? What opportunity is this presenting me with? So if you're struggling with something today, if something is hard for you, or you don't know what to do, try to look at what's the opportunity. Where can you go from here? What could you pivot or change? Okay. Another thing that I thought was so badass is Marlene talked about creating gaps. And she said she tried to create gaps between opportunities. So between jobs, she would take time to reflect, to process. And she did this before moving on. Marlene even said, hey, my career might look like a mismatch of things. It might look like I had ADD. But she was really processing things and then looking for different opportunities as they came to her. And as a result, she has had an amazing career. And man, she even said at the beginning, she could not have predicted all of the different things that she would have done. But to me, it doesn't seem ADD. It seems like well choreographed. You know, I can see how it just kind of happened by taking the next right step, the next right step, the next right step. But I got to ask you, how often are you pausing in your life? How often are you reflecting on what season you just came out of and what you're moving to, like what you're moving towards, what you want more of in your life? This isn't a critical process. You're not being critical of yourself. It's just self-reflection. So you know more of what you want in the future. Or you realize the things you don't want to invest your time in the future. So maybe you take some time today and just sit down and think, create a gap in your life. Even if you're not between opportunities, just create some space to think of where you're at in your life right now, what's gone on in the past year, and where do you want to be in a year, right? Just give yourself space and time to think without being critical of yourself. Okay, another thing that I thought was so badass was an exercise that Marlene talked about. She said it's called Just Like Me. And she said just go sit on a park bench sometime and look at different people that walk past you and just say, just like me. That person is just like me. Maybe there's somebody that's homeless. They're just like you. In some way, they are just like you are. Maybe there's somebody with a baby, a mom. She's just like you. Or somebody running, or somebody who's stressed, somebody who's meditating or enjoying the peace of the park. They are just like you. Even if they're not in the same financial state or the same life phase as you, or the same situations as you, in some way, they are just like you. And we forget that. It's so easy to forget that. 2020, 2021, absolute craziness with the pandemic and just people being torn apart. Okay, I'm just going to tell you, if I sound weird here, you hear like weird noises, I'm sucking on a cough drop right now because I was sick like a month ago and cannot get over this dang cough. And it's not even like a horrible cough. It's pretty shallow cough, but I keep talking, and the longer I talk, I want to keep coughing. So I threw a cough drop in so I don't have to keep pausing, coughing. But instead, you might just hear me sucking on a cough drop. All right, just had to get that out there, put that out there. Okay, where was I? Just like me. You are just like me. I am just like you. So how can you find a way to incorporate that in your life? Maybe it's the people you work with. Maybe it's somebody you despise. How are they like you? Not to say you have to be their best friend, but sometimes it's interesting to notice how people are so much like you. And then maybe it gives you a little bit deeper respect for life and for other people. Okay, something else that I thought was so badass is how Marlene said that now when she's in the room with different people, or she's in the room with a group of people that are different from her, she said she has less attachment to what she wants and more to hear what everybody else has to say, and to get around a table and everybody talk about it, to hear about everybody's ideas. That is so stinking important. I loved that she said that. So often we sit with a group of people. It could be friends, it could be family, it could be anybody, coworkers, and as opposed to listening to what they have to say, we're too busy thinking about our own agenda and what's the next thing I'm going to say. And then that detracts from the overall mission, right? Because we're all so consumed with what we're going to say. Instead of listening to everybody at the table and then coming up with something with everybody's brain power. It's so powerful. I recently listened to a book on Audible about this kind of thing. It's called More Time to Think, and it's all about thinking and listening, but listening to everybody in the room and giving everybody equal time instead of playing favorites, right? Not just one person needs to speak, not just two people need to speak, but giving time for everybody in the room to speak. And so I absolutely love that Marlene said that. And another part of what she said was quit taking it personal. Q-tip. And how that coach she knew had the Q-tips on her desk to remind people, quit taking it personal. It's not personal. If you didn't get playing time, it's not personal. Same thing if you're in a group meeting or you're sitting around the table talking to people, trying to brainstorm ideas. Somebody has a different idea than you. It's not personal. If somebody says something opposite of what you're saying, it's not personal. It's not about you. It's trying to come up with the best decision and listening to everybody's opinions. So Q-tip, quit taking it personal. That's the acronym. Okay, there were so many great takeaways from Marlene. I could go on and on. She's such a badass. Quick recap is she's a badass for being the only woman in the room and for thinking authentically, behaving authentically. Also, Marlene is a badass for using the concept of fit. Feeling, images, and thoughts, and making sure those three things are in alignment with each other. Also, she's attempted to do things that no one else has ever done before. And even though it was hard, she persisted, and I loved that. Marlene said, keep your eyes open and don't get stuck. She was constantly keeping her eyes open for different opportunities and kept moving. I loved that. Marlene also always tried to become better every day. How can you become better this minute? How can you become better today, tomorrow? Every single day, try to become a little bit better version of yourself. Another thing that was so badass about Marlene is she would always take gaps, like take a pause between one opportunity and just stop, breathe, reflect. And she also did the just like me exercise. Like sitting on a park bench, looking at other people and seeing how they're just like you. Okay. And lastly was the Q-tip exercise. Quit taking it personal. What everybody else says isn't always about you. Just because you get feedback, it doesn't mean that it's personal attack against you. And like Marlene did, is she would have less attachment to what she wanted and more interest to hearing what everybody else had to say. Don't be afraid to listen. You might be shocked at the ideas that other people come up with or the things that come up with when a group can listen and collaborate. It'll blow your mind. Okay, if you liked any of these takeaways or you loved the episode with Marlene as much as I did, definitely make sure that you reach out to her. Let her know. Marlene Bjornsrud on Facebook. And if you reach out to me, I'll give you her email address. She said you're more than welcome to reach out to her and have a conversation with her. That's pretty epic. Not a lot of people say, oh, just email me. Let's have a conversation. So by the fact that she did that, man, that's badass right there, right? But she shared a lot of vulnerabilities, a lot of stuff that she's went through, some great, amazing advice. Loved the takeaways. Obviously, this episode I had how many things that were so badass, right? But if you learned something from her, don't be afraid to reach out. Let her know what your takeaways were. Let her know what you're going to do as a result of it. Or maybe it changed your mind on something. But don't underestimate the power of your feedback. I would be so grateful if you reached out to Marlene and told her what an impact her episode had on you. And with that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there staying in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, own it and get after it.
Now that you've listened to this episode of Ordinary to Badass, we want to hear from you. Go to our website, ordinarytobadass.com/podcast, and submit your own experience on how you took your life from ordinary to badass and get the chance to be on a future Spotlight episode of the show. That's ordinarytobadass.com/podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode of the show, wipe off the sweat, dust off the dirt, and get back in the arena.